Morning, family. My name's David. I'm an addict. Was up till 4 o'clock last night. And before that, I was already thinking this was just not going to be a clear and concise NA message. It's like, for me, it's tough enough to live with addiction on a good day. When it comes to grief, this is something that, it's tough enough to be human on a grieving day. From where I'm sitting, the shit that we've got in common, besides using dope, is all human stuff. And to some extent, using dope is kind of human stuff too, just illegal human stuff. But we got a whole bunch of other stuff that I'm here about, that I relate to, and I see people nod over, that it's human stuff. But when I share about my take on it, in here I see people nodding. Out there, people look at me like, what the fuck? Grieving is tough. I could take up a whole lot of time, turning this into a mini lead, just talking about the pain I've been through in my life and the shit that has happened to me through death. And I watched my mom just kill herself with this shit, and her dad and two of her brothers. I've watched a sponsor do it. I have watched sponsees do it. I haven't seen too many of us commit suicide. I've known a lot of us that, most of us felt suicidal, but man, it's like we're incredible fucking survivors. But we make a lot of very self-destructive choices. And again, everybody out there in this world knows what it's like to lose someone and, to just go through a whole lot of pain. But they don't get how under feeling we can be on the surface sometimes. And they don't get how freaking overly emotional we can be sometimes. And they don't get how it seems like we can be over something so fast. And then 6 months later, it's like, Jesus Christ, you're still not over that? And that's just from somebody gossiping about me. I do think, want to toss out some of the things that I've lost. Watching mom die was really hard for me because, I remember, I don't think when I'm remembering, as old as Joey, but I remember walking on her feet through flowers in the yard, with her holding my hands. I was a mama's boy in a big way. And, she was an amazing person. She was so fucking wonderful. That made it so much worse. She didn't beat me until she drank. She was sweet. She was sweet as can be. And she didn't beat me often. But then she'd say things like, I love you anyway, at night when she'd come into my room for the 8th time to open my window, then close my window, then fucking open it again and close my window. I'd wake up and there'd be 5 cups of water next to my bed in the morning. And again, I seen heads nodding in here, and I thought I was the only one. Watching somebody that I'm that connected to, trying to be close to, trying to protect myself from, making tuna fish casserole when I was 9 years old and letting her take credit for it. Watching somebody like that die, that's tough shit. And my dad was already dying before she died. She didn't get to be free of that knowledge. She went to her grave knowing her husband was on his last legs. He got cancer. And then right after she fucking died, I was caregiving for my dad. And that only took a few months before he passed away. I dated a girl who was killed by a mass murderer. She was chopped up in a fucking barrel after being tortured. I was completely blown by the fact that drugs didn't work anymore. I really didn't come here looking for spirituality or any of the stuff I found. I just couldn't fucking believe that I could still feel again and think no matter what I used. So much of grief for people out there has to do with disappointment and things not going their way and control. And, I don't know if there's such thing as a reasonable expectation, but I know that we don't have them. I set myself up for so much grief. I love so much. I hate so much. I expect so much. And it's not like I'm suggesting like there's a lot we can do to prevent setting up for grief, but that when it happens, that I can't just pretend it didn't happen and just like put something behind me and go on. It's going to be a ride. That's the time when it's like, please hang on to the bar. I look back, before I ever picked up, and the times when I was in the most pain, and the times when the pain of life was able to break through the numb of using, before the tolerance got to the point where every day I could feel. And then in my recovery, I look at the times when I was the most intense and preoccupied. Preoccupied. I mean, like, I can't fucking stop thinking about her and why she left. And I can't stop picking up the phone. That's grief. That's control. That's absolute, I'm powerless. And I can't stand it. And when that shit kicks in, I really understand how much of this disease is about wanna and don't wanna. And how, hopes and dreams can be over there. But if there's something that makes me annoyed, irritated, uncomfortable, right here, just for one step, I'm going that way. Or if there's something I want to fuck or run with or ride or whatever over here, again, I'm taking one more step, following, my wanna and my don't wanna. And when I'm grieving, that little part of my brain that I share with squirrels, getting into outside opinions and philosophies and theories here, but like to me, addiction lies in fly, flee, fuck, fight. I make decisions with that, and then I do all this creative shit to make those decisions okay. After the decision has already been ganked by my glands, by my guts, and. I really buy it when in the text where somewhere in there it says something along the lines, it's shorter than this, but I add like the get it part for me. Ain't no one of us ever going to be able to consistently make good decisions by ourselves. If everybody did everything my way 90% of the time, things would go so fucking good. And that other 10% of the time would be spectacularly bad. That's why I love the group conscious process. And that's why when I most can't stand you, when I most want to just go another day without shaving, I have to listen to you guys talk about putting a fucking note on the back of your door to remind you how not to live like an animal. That's when I have to listen to people come in here and say, one disease, one fellowship, one program, and then people come up to me and hug me and whisper to me, it just says medicine, religion, psychiatry aren't sufficient for us. There's times when people need help. It's been I did not do any of the grief counseling that was offered when my mom and my dad passed. And I got shitloads of stuff in the mail, and phone calls from social workers and all kinds of people, hospice. A long time ago, though, I did go through some grief counseling, and I don't remember none of it hardly. But one of the things I noticed is the people in this program who came up to me and called me and checked up on me and stuff, that had things to say that stuck and that I could use, were people who used this foundation to build on by seeking outside help through some of this stuff. This program was showing them how to live. I did a lousy job following their example of where they were getting it, but I was able to get shit from them I could use. They told me things that didn't sound like bumper stickers. They told me things that didn't make me feel ashamed of how long it was taking me to get over it, and I'm still not by any stretch of the imagination. Every day I'm angry still, That's my mom died 2 years ago. And actually a good deal longer than that, because now I think about it, Joey's 2, and he was born just after my dad died. So when the ride started, I'm not even sure now. But I heard things that could fit on a bumper sticker, things like, "It's going to take time." Ouch. And I can tell you based on my experience, yeah, it does. It's going to take forgiveness. That one's really fucking hard. I don't do forgiveness, and I want to, and I can't. I have to find it. I have to seek it. I have to work for it, just like acceptance. I have to start with admitting things are the way they are, and that, I don't like it. And I have to go on to believing that I'm not the only one that got through it, and that it's not just going to be okay. It's not like God's will is going to be something that prevails some other fucking time. He gave us a choice. I hurt a lot of people through my choices. It takes the basics. It takes working on shit that I don't want to instead of the things I want to. The diversions, It's the time when I want to most ignore the solution and take a vacation. For me, grieving has a lot to do with a loss of faith and a loss of hope. It's a whole new situation. She's not going to get better now. Do you have any fucking idea what a relief that is? And how guilty I feel for feeling relieved? But most of all, we harmed ourselves. I thought that meant, but most of all, most of the harm I caused was to myself. No, it means that the priorities of what I can work on have to be dealing with my shit. Most of the pain in my life has come from watching other people make the choices I didn't want them to make. Choosing things that, here's what they were looking for. Here's what I was looking for. Didn't know it. Going through the same shit, for years with sponsees. Seeing in, 17-year-old black guys, my mom, seeing in, freaking, gay women who my mom would never have related to. People that she would completely relate to, and seeing her. and seeing my mom and seeing myself. A lot of when I'm in a whole shitload of pain is about self-centeredness, and that's normal, okay? That's really normal. That's when I'm a big asshole. That's when it's about me. That's called defense mechanisms, and another way out there of looking at it, we call it character defects, and they're not something for me to be ashamed of. They're something for me to cop to and embrace and allow in, and to not try and control, but to allow a whole other process to drive the self-centeredness that's pushing them and the fear that's pushing them another way. It's on when I'm grieving. There's the grieving that's like thoroughly just soaking in the obsession, soaking in the pain, soaking in the numb, and then there's the stuff that's afterwards. It's not over once I'm out of that. I feel pretty healthy and normal again. People with heart disease are going to outlive us all, as long as they're working a heart disease recovery program. It's like, no, they didn't come looking for diet, exercise, stretch management, anger management. They just didn't want to feel that fucking dump truck on their chest again. I didn't come here looking for spirituality, and I didn't come here looking to meditate, shit that I got to do. I didn't come here looking for prayers and one-liners that do so much. And I didn't come here looking for people that get it, because you couldn't. How could you? And that's what I feel like again when I'm grieving. Okay, maybe you lost somebody once, but you're not there now. How many people have you known that relapsed? People who you respected, who made sense in service, who had gotten through their suspicion about other people's motives in service and all that stuff, and they weren't over it, but they had a way to deal with it. And next thing you know, they're like, that fucking judge was unfair, man. He nailed me a lot harder than those other guys who used even more, and that habitual offenders, man. It's like, dude, what happened to recovery, that guy I know? There's Addict Man back. That's what I'm like when I'm grieving, with or without the use of drugs. I can be Addict Man again. When I'm grieving, it's on. I am more about resentment, anger, and fear than anything else. It's so fucked up because when good things happen, I understand that's when it's time to play kindergarten. When I get a new job, I start going to a meeting a day again for a few weeks. Every time I've graduated, when I got married, every time something good happened, I understood that I was in relapse, that's normal for us, and that it's time to just dude, chill, take a key, stay close to the basics right now. When I'm in pain, it's fuck all that. It's about self-centeredness, and it's about you don't get it, and it's about fake it till you make it. And if I can't get anything else through to myself, much less anybody else in opening this up, fake it till you make it isn't about being insincere. It's about pushing my comfort zone, which can go from being my neighborhood to my front door to my bedroom door to my bed. That I need to push my comfort zone gently but consistently. Stay within it. Don't overwhelm myself by going outside of it. But I got to fake it till you make it is about going through motions that rub my fur the wrong way, until going to meetings is familiar again, until listening to what's being said and out there instead of what's being said in here is familiar again. Because what's familiar stops rubbing my fur the wrong way so much. That's where practice comes in. It's not like I get all that much better at it. I'm just a hell of a lot less anxious about it. And that ain't going to fucking happen. That doesn't happen. Alone in here. Not answering the phone. Not calling the phone. Using the phone. I'll sit there needing to solve all this shit when for the last hour and a half I've also needed to pee. I lock up by myself in this stuff. So, yeah, the biggest thing, I can't tell you, there's 1,000 other things that I thought about, when I looked at, it's like, okay, sign up for some time to share. Like, okay, I don't want it to be too early in the morning. I got a kid. I don't want it to be too late at night. I got a kid. And I don't want to be at nap time. What's left? God damn it. I don't want to talk about this. Everybody else signed up in order. They didn't have no conditions. Grieving is about letting go of my way. It really is. It's not just about lost love. It's not just about, forever. And it's about fake it till you make it. It's about getting back to the basics. There's 1,000 other things it's about. But for me, that was the main shit. Stay close to the basics. Understand I didn't get my way. And fake it till I make it. Get familiar. So I'm not anxious. Love you guys.
Our second speaker is Ruben from Chicago.
Wow, thank you, David. Yeah, David. I'm all over the place, man, because I've been thinking about a lot of things, man. I lost a brother in this process. I just lost a friend with 24 years clean that decided that he wanted to go home, and because he was real sick. And he never, said, oh, man, I want to stay living. He just said, I'm ready to go, and grieving, man, don't have to be the death either of a loved one. It can be a relationship. I wouldn't come here. I was in a relationship before I got into the one I'm in now, and I wouldn't come to Camp Mac for years, man, because every time I come back there, man, I see that little yurt that we used to stay in, and it would bother me, man, and my sponsor would say, man, get over that shit, what's wrong with you, man? Life goes on, and, it's easy to tell somebody that when you ain't going through it. You know what I'm saying? It's easy to tell somebody, get over it when you ain't had nobody die in your family. You know what I'm saying? Because I used to say that. Before my brother passed, I used to say, damn, man, okay, they gone. Shit, keep living. And then when it happened, when it came knocking at my back door, I didn't know what to do. And some women came and got me and said, hey, we need you to speak at a treatment center with some newcomers, all right? And I said, man, I can't do that right now. They said, oh, okay. You're going to rob the newcomer from hearing the message. This is where you need to be. And so I went there and I did the thing for the treatment center. And a newcomer that had 30 days clean came up to me and said, hey, I got 2 years clean, and I stayed clean because of what you said in that meeting that day. And I ain't even never seen this newcomer, man. And I'm still grieving through the death of my brother. I still grieve through losing my friend in recovery. But, I went and hunted down one of these books that I didn't have to buy. Thank you, Matthew. Where you at, Matthew? Thank you, Matthew. And in August 20th, man, right, in the Just for the Day, it talks about facing death, I hate to cry, but I gotta, I was in California at a convention, and my partner said, "You from Gary and you cry? You're a punk," But they didn't mean that. They knew I was crying for real, right? It talks about often we have to face some type of crisis during our recovery, such as the death of a loved one, right? Basic text, page 102, and it said, every life has a beginning and an end. However, when someone we love a great deal reaches the end of their life, we may have a very hard time accepting their sudden final absence. Our grief may be also powerful that we fear it will completely overwhelm us, but it will not. Our sorrow may hurt more than anything we can remember, but it will pass. We need not run from the emotion that may arise from the death of a loved one. Death and grieving are parts of the fullness of living of life on life term. By allowing ourselves the freedom to experience these feelings, we partake more deeply of both our recovery and human nature. Sometimes the reality of another's death makes our own morality that much more pronounced. We reveal our priority, appreciating the loved ones still with us, and all more our life with them will not go on forever. We want to make the most of what's important while it lasts. We might find that the death of someone we love helps strengthen our conscious contact with a higher power. If we remember that we can always turn to that source of strength, when we are troubled, we will be able to stay focused on it no matter what. We may be going on around us. Just for that, we accept the loss of one I love and turn to my higher power for the strength and acceptance. My feelings, I will make the most of my love for those in my life today. And today, man, I appreciate people in my life, man. And I'm not liked in a lot of places in Narcotics Anonymous because I speak my piece. But I'm not liked, but I'm loved in a lot of places. You see what I'm saying? But what I'm trying to say is, man, sometimes, man, I sit up at home, man, on my balcony, and I call it a condo because anything I got a key to is a condo to me. You know what I'm saying? I ain't in my mother's house today, and I can go there, though, if I make the wrong choice. And I think about the memories of people that have left us, man, and the things that I have to do to stay clean in this process. Like come here and hug everybody. Like go sit around a campfire and play with a broom. I said, what the hell is this shit? I said, man, this ain't what's going, this ain't what I like, But I stood there, man, and I said, wow, I ain't using today, man. And we think we got problems, man. My friend has a little baby, and the baby was here, and the baby has sicknesses, and I was telling somebody, and we think we got problems. We think that we got problems, man. I was talking to a dude the other day, man, that can't stop using, And he said, I done made all the right decisions. I done went to meetings. I say, man, check this out. When you stop, we'll be here if you make it back. Because some of us don't make it back. Like you said, Mark, we could sit around here and play these games. Like my sponsor say, we be in meetings laughing and cracking jokes, man. We need to be talking about what's really going on, man. You know what I'm saying? The shit that really affects our life, man. The things that, man, that when we come in here, man, that we used to use about and now we ain't using about. I remember the day my brother died, and I'll never forget this. My sister-in-law called and said, you need to get over here. And I said, all I want to know is one thing. Did he make it? Not this time. Not this time. See, when we go in and out these rooms, man, and we stay clean, and you go back out there, our hearts, man, hurt, man. You know what I'm saying? And we carried it. People tell me, hey, man, how you get through all that shit? I don't know. I call people, man. I reach out to people, man. I didn't want to reach out to nobody when my partner just died with 24 and a half years clean. He gave me a jacket, man, and I reached for it. It's in my car. I was reaching for some of them energy drinks, right? My sponsor calls it cocaine water. He said, hey, man, you had some cocaine water with you. I don't want none of that shit. And it says, wow, what does that jacket say? I can't even put it together. It says something, man. God-given program, man. And he said, man, I want to give this to you, man, because I love you. You know. And I said, man, wow. You know, so every time I put on that jacket, man, I go through grief, man. You know, but I healed through it, man. You know what I'm saying? I healed through a lot of shit, man. You know, people ask me, how do you get through all this, man? You know, hey, man, I reach out to people. Even the ones, man, that I don't like. You know, check this one out, man. When my brother died, the people that I didn't mess with, you know, I always say I don't fuck with everybody, but I got to fuck with somebody. Them same people say, we got this. Don't even worry about it. You know, we could talk about that later. This them same people I had to go back, man, and hug and say I'm sorry for bashing you in the meeting or talking shit about you. You know, today, man, you know, and I was talking to my lady about this. You know, when I leave, I'm gonna be ready to leave. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna be around here trying to hang. When it's time, I'm going. You know, and in Narcotics Anonymous, I go other places too, man. You know what I'm saying? I enhance my spirituality. You know. But I know where I got the first hit, and it was here, man, in Narcotics Anonymous. You know, the grief, man, that I go through sometimes when people in my family go out. I got people that use in my family. I got a brother that got a nice home and everything, man. You know, and I go there and I eat and I leave. I don't stay too long, you know, because he started talking about the times when we used to use together. You know, I said, well, I got to go, you know. He said, oh, man, you know, you was cool and all that. No, I ain't. I see you tomorrow or some shit. You know, but I always ask, you need to make a meeting? No, man, come on now. I don't need no meeting. When my brother ended up at his ends, man, I would say, hey, man, you got to have 5 years clean. You know this shit work. And he talked about the part in the literature that said, gone beyond recall. He said, that's my story, man. He said, if I want to go to treatment, I'll let you know. You know, if I want to get clean again, I'll let you know. He said, I'm going to use, man. I'm going to use. And I remember sitting in the living room at my mother's house saying, hey, man, is there anything I can do for you? And he said, no. He said, go save somebody that want to be saved. I don't want to be just saved, man. I want to use. And he used till he died, man. And you know what? I thought I was going to use because I was the one that they called to clean out the closet and clean out all this shit and prescriptions and all that shit. And I stumbled across a fit and some heroin, man. And I called somebody and they said, you better dump that shit. Because right then, getting high sounded like a good-ass idea. Ain't nobody going to know. I'm the only one here. My family don't understand the disease of addiction. They just know I go to meeting. They know it does something for me. They don't know what. And I said, I want to get high, man. And I remember the dude said, man, your mother just went through a thing, and she going to go through another thing if you do. He said, dump that shit. Everything. You know, and I did that, man. And I stayed connected in this process, man. You know. And he talked about losing his mom. And my mom's 85 years old. My father's 84. And I stay connected to them as much as I can. Because I don't know when it's going to come. Because I might go first. But I got to be prepared. I got to be prepared, man. Because if I ain't prepared, I'm going to use, man. You know? That's, you know, people say, hey, we can come to these podiums, we can sound good and speak all over the world. And me, you know, because I do a lot of that shit too. But, you know, I didn't want to speak here today because I spoke last year. I said, let somebody else have a chance. And Jim said, no, man, check it out. We ain't even filling them. And come on, man, you got some experience with that. So my sponsor, when Narcotics Anonymous called, you need to step up, man. He said, if it wasn't this program, you wouldn't have shit. And I stepped up, man, because I had to step up, you know, because there's people in here that need to hear how we get through this shit, man, you know, how we get through my past relationship. She's still using, man. And, you know, at one point I was angry about that shit, man. I said, damn, you took my heart and stuffed all over it. I hate you. But I'm in the sauna the other day praying, man, that she make it back. Because you know what, man? I don't know if I'm going to use. Shit, I might get in one of them modes one day where my life might be okay. You know? Shit, I'm sitting on 20s. You know? I'm sitting on the balcony today. Fuck it. You know? I'm going to get high. And that'll be the end of me. Because I don't know about you. But I know when I do it, and I don't care who I hurt. I break my mother off, my father, my kids, everybody. You know, I just recently, maybe a year ago, reunited with my son after 20 years of being gone out of his life. And I remember calling you, Mark, and telling you about it, and you said, that's a good thing. And today I still grieve over that. I still grieve about not going to his PTA meeting or going to his games and shit like that. And I remember his mother saying, you'll never be shit. You know? You'll never amount to anything. You know? She said, matter of fact, if you ever die, I hope we never see you again. And that son, my lady found him on the internet one day. I was at a speaking event. Ran out of gas with 11 years clean. With Vince, with my sponsee. I say, man, don't tell nobody this shit. She said, I think I found your son. I said, nah, that ain't him. That can't be him. She said, don't too many people look like you. So I get home and I look. And he looks like me. And I'm sitting here wondering, what the hell I'm going to do, man? What am I going to say to this boy, man? It's 22 years old. Bigger than me, right? And I'm going through these range of feelings, man. I'm going through this shit like, man, what the fuck am I going to say to this dude, man? And I said, do you want to meet? And he said, not now. So I let it fall alone, you know. That's grieving, man. You don't understand. It ain't just the death, man. It's just like shit that messes with me like, man, I done lived this life, but I always knew I had a son back that I was going to have to face. And we meet, man. We meet, and I'm nervous, and I don't drink coffee, right? Mm-hmm. So I tell the waitress, hey, can we get 2 pots of coffee right here? And and I'm looking and I'm not seeing him, and this dude gets out this car, man. Big, you know, and I'm like, I call my girl in California named Vicky. I said, I don't know what the fuck to do. She said, sit right there, okay, and wait till he gets here and hug him. You know, and he walks in and he looks around and he looks dead at me. And he walks up to me. Look, this Jim's a tree. I'm going to tell you how I met this fucker. And he walks up. And I say, hey, I guess I'm your dad, you know. And he hugs me. And he said, I'm glad this shit is over with. He said, you ain't what my mom said you were. She said you were no good. You would never be shit. You know? And to find out he caught up in the disease his damn self. And the apple don't fall too far from the tree. And I pick him up at times, and he smells, and he ain't got. I say, hey man, check this out. Do you need help with that? No, I'm cool. I just take a Vicodin here and there. I just let him know, hey, I'm here, man. You know, I love you, man. You know. I'm grieving through my son, 20 years old. Yeah, I got 2 kids, 22 and 20. So when I see kids with your son walking, I lost all that in my kid's life. And I said, damn, if I can only bring that back. My sponsor said, that shit ain't coming back. You better worry about what's in front of you. And he's in basic training, man, in the armed forces. And his mom calls me over and said, hey, he's graduating from basic training. She ain't going to be able to go because of money problem. And he said, well, I want my dad to be there. And I'm sitting here contemplating on, oh, I got to drive from this airport to this, in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, wearing shit down there. And I got some people that said, you get here, we're going to take care of the rest. I don't even know these motherfuckers. And they're from the country, man. They said, we'll take care of the rest. Right? And he's in the Army, right? And I'm going to go to his graduation, man. And I grieved when he left, man, because I used to talk to him every day on a daily basis. And I can't do that now. I can't just say, hey, how you doing? So it's things in my life, man, that bother me, that don't have to be the death of a loved one. It can be the relationship, It can be this, it can be that. It can be my coworkers all the time fucking off. I'm going through a situation where at work, now, work, you got to be like a fucking soldier at these jobs, man. And I'm a union rep, so they really don't like me, And, I go and take a test, man, because I take tests, for blood test. And I'm with a guy, this dude's always happy. Never, ever has a frown on his face. And they come back with the tests, man, and he has leukemia. And he still got a fucking smile on his face. And what he told me, I went to see him the other day after working 712s, 316. I drove all the way from my apartment or my job all the way to his hospital where he's at. He's in a radiation, all that shit. And he said, man, why are you here? Do you got a doctor's appointment? I said, no, I'm here to see you. My concern is you. He said, wow. And he started crying, man. He said, man, damn, man, I would have never thought anybody like you would come down here just to see me. Wow. See, because I don't know when that's going to be me. See, I've been in a wheelchair, never ever having possibilities of ever walking again. But you guys said, you'll walk again. You'll walk again. And this guy, I called him yesterday, he's crying on the phone. He said, Ruben, you meant a lot to me by doing that, what you did. And that ain't my work. That's God's work, man. That's you guys telling me, to do shit like this for people, man. When I seen that little baby yesterday out there at that campfire, man, that has all them problems, I had to go over there and play with it. Because you know what? I ain't really got no problem. I'm my problem. I'm my biggest problem. Trust me. I remember first coming to this convention, I'll never forget fucking this guy. The guy that died told me to go to this convention. I see a dude on a Harley standing. I said, I'm at the wrong place. I got suits ready, hats, alligator. I said, hey, man, I'm looking for a convention with Grow with Love. And he said, this is it. Let me get a hug. And I said, wait a minute, man. This ain't my type of shit, man. I called George up. I said, what's wrong with you, man? He said, hey, man, check it out. Just stay there the whole weekend and tell me if you like it. I stayed here, man, the whole weekend. I've been coming back ever since. I feel it here, man. I feel the connection, man. You know what I'm saying? I feel you guys' presence helping me here a lot, man. And when people pass on, man, they pass on, man. I got to live in their memory, man. It's hard because me and George used to talk every morning. Every morning, man. We used to talk about all kind of shit. About all kind of people. I said, you wouldn't believe, man. They got the meeting all fucked up, man. They talking about clean and this and that. He said, man, they got cancer in the meeting, man. For we, and on his dying, and he was dying, man, and somebody said, man, you need to get over here because he ain't gonna last till Monday. So I got over there, man, and then my sponsor, we went in there and he opened his eyes for the last time, man. But he took 25 years with him. He took that with him, that's for sure. And he said, man, hey, I'm gonna die clean. You know what I'm saying? You know, I got to leave. I don't want to leave. I got to work Monday, man. You know? I'm going to go home and cook out, man, and then me and my little lady going to watch a movie, man. You know? Or cartoons or whatever the hell it is, man. You know, something to make it positive, man. You know? The day my partner passed away, I came home from work. I didn't say too much. My lady was saying, what's wrong, what's wrong? I just didn't want to feel, man. I just wanted to lay the fuck down and wallow in that shit and say, this is bullshit. You know? We got good people leaving here and shit, man. And my sponsor, you got to enjoy the memory, man. Enjoy the good time. You know? We can always enjoy the bad time, but the good time. You know, and I know, man, in our area, we got people going in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. I had to tell this dude the other day, Steve Sponsee, matter of fact, he went out, you know, and I told him, I said, man, ain't shit funny, you know. I said, this disease is just waiting again to get you. I said, you know what? And he was telling me, he was laughing and talking. I said, listen, if we want to hear from disease, we'll ask you. and he called back. He said, hey, man, what was that all about? I say, man, you made it this time. Ain't no guarantee you're going to make it again. You know what I'm saying? You know, some people think this is a rat race and shit. Oh, I'll be back. Yeah, it's a lot of motherfuckers ain't back this time. It's a lot of people wish they can go to that tree and just sit there. You know, it's a lot of people wish they can go camping, you know. Like last night, it was a lot of people wish they can be around that broom too. You know, I'd rather be there than be in a dope house. You know, I'd rather be there, man, than be at home thinking about, oh man, how I'm gonna get through this again. I know how I'm gonna get through it. I'm gonna call you. You know, I'm gonna say something, man, to help somebody. I don't want to go to work and tell them, hey, man, you know, I'm grieving and shit. They don't give a shit about that. Shit, half of them want me to go out and use with them anyway. I'd be at work, man, and the people be at work just swallowing pills. Say, I know, you know, we don't mean to do this to you, but you want to go to a strip club with us? No. See, because I got a locker at work that before it was my locker, it was a guy's locker that was 22 years old. That told me that, hey, we know you can't drink, but we're going to drink for you. Guess what? He didn't make it back. And his father said, I want you to have his locker because you was a great impression on his life while he was here. I know what this disease can do to us, man. And I know it would tell us, man, we can use when somebody died. That sounds like a good-ass idea. With a year clean, I went to a bar, and somebody had died in my life, a young lady, and they said, what are you doing here? You know what we do here. Well, you know, they say, you know what we do here. Now, if you ain't here to do what we do, you need to go back where you came from to that program. Yes, right. And them dudes ain't here today to talk about that. You know, I love this program, man. You know, and that guy I'm telling you about that has leukemia, I call him every day and tell him, hey, man, how you doing? Oh, I'm all right, you know. He said, it's killing me, but I'm going to make it. I said, listen, man, you're going to be all right. You just take it easy, man. Don't worry about that job. Worry about getting well, you know. And this is the same guy that when I was at my mother's house that couldn't walk, okay, I had to walk on my knees because my legs was all burnt, bricked up, and I couldn't walk for 6 months. And the doctor said, we don't know if you're going to walk. We don't know none of that. He brought me some food over, man, cooked already. I couldn't believe it, man. He ain't even in the program. He said he just listens to me on the phone talking to people and how to get through shit. And I never thought he would listen to me because don't nobody listen to me at work. They say stay as far away from that fucker right there as you can. Don't listen to nothing he said. You know. And it's a trip, man, because you guys are listening to me. You know. And like I said, I didn't want to do this, but Jim insisted. Jim's a good guy, man. I like Jim. You know. I'm going to go home. Like I said, I'm going to cook. I'm going to relax. I don't want to leave, man, but I have other priorities. I got to get ready to get on a plane to go to Oklahoma and be with my son. You know, he loves me, man. He said, Dad, man, you're a good person. He gave me a book not too long ago and said, I'm proud of you. When you think people don't know this shit, they notice it. You know, I thought people used to have to notice me, man. I go to conventions, hey, what's going on, man? You know, I don't have to do that shit today. I don't have to do none of that shit. You know, God notices me. You know what I'm saying? But I notice when people use too, man. You know, I know people sit in our meetings sometimes and be fucked up. I mean, fucked up. Hey, and we can't tell them to leave. We should just ask you to come back clean if you can. And they come out the side of their necks, well, hey, all right, cool. But you know what? We got to be sitting there for them when they get back. If they make it back. You know? Because some don't make it back. You know, a lot of people lose legs, eyes. I lost my mind out there. It was uncontrollable, man. You know, I seen a old guy from the neighborhood. I rode through there with my mom one day. And the dude said, man, this motherfucking neighborhood is still grieving because you're gone. It was like they were happy as hell when I left. But you guys always told me, this is the only place, man, that I came. I've been talked about in the room over and over and over and over and over. Okay? This is the only place, man, that I came where I ain't had to pay rent. Where I done lost some shit in y'all to say, come on. This is the only place that I didn't get put out. You know, I've been to treatment centers. You got to go. If your rent ain't paid, well, you got to go. This is the only place that we accept you. This is the only place, man, where I was in a wheelchair and the addict said, just get here and we'll take care of the rest. I'm driving to Wisconsin in a blizzard with a wheelchair in the back with one foot bandaged up, the other one okay driving. I get there, addicts come to the car, put me in a wheelchair, and take me to my room, man. You know, it's shit like that that helped me through the hard times in my life, man. You know, through the things that can send me back out there. You know, I don't want to sit here and tell. I go to my home group, sometimes I don't say shit, man. Because sometimes I need to listen on what's going on, man. You know, sometimes I need to sit there, man, and get tuned in with God, man. You know, this dude right here, he just came up to me. This dude sends me texts every day. Every day. And I used to say, I wonder who the fuck is that? You know, and he said, hey, Ruben, you from Gary? Yeah, well, I'm the dude that send you the texts. How coincidence? And that shit helps me, man. That shit helps me, man. That's a trip every day for the last year. And I get to finally meet him. But I met him at another convention. I just don't pay attention to shit. And I've been through the sponsees using and saying, well, they just drink. You know, well, I just take this. You know. Okay. Well, we'll be here for you. My sponsor drove up yesterday, man. And I said, damn, man, what made you come up here? Because you don't even come to shit like that. He said, I came up here years ago, man, when none of that shit was out here. You know. He said, I just came up here to talk to you, man, and to hug you, man, and let you know you're going to do okay tomorrow. I said, yeah, right. He said, I ain't for real. I just didn't drive up here, man. I drove to see you, man. You know. I don't know, man. This is a good thing here if we grow with love and my partner that just died, George. If you go out of here and it's a road, and you go past them tents that, you know, that concrete that goes all the way to the Sarah Major and back. He said, boy, if you get off that road, you fucked. He said, you better stay on that road, man. And what he meant by that is if we get off track, we're fucked, man. You know, we're fucked. You know, and a lot of people think this ain't no amusement park. You know, we got to respect this program. You know, I know motherfuckers come in meetings selling clothes and CDs. That's what the fuck. Hey, man, this ain't no goddamn flea market. These motherfuckers dying, you know, and you in here want to sell CDs and clothes and shit. This is not a fucking flea market. Okay, take this shit out of here. And I mean what I say. You know what I'm saying? Hey, look, we'll go toe to toe, but we ain't gonna use. But you ain't, look, man, we got people here dying. We got people here nodding. We got people here getting distracted by just us talking. And you coming here with selling jeans and CDs and cologne and shit. Disrespecting the program like that. What's wrong with you, man? Just because you got a certain amount of years clean, let the next motherfucker try to get it, man. You know what I'm saying? You worried about getting that next dollar. That's like getting a hit. Take that shit somewhere else, man. You know what I'm saying? And I've gotten better with the talking and meeting shit, you know, because I used to have my own meeting in the corner. And people started, hey, man, what's wrong with you? You supposed to be an example, you know? I'm going to close with this, man. Not too long ago, okay? And I got to get honest, because this is an honest program. I was in a meeting sharing about something because a newcomer shared that she didn't want to let go of this guy and she wanted to stay clean. And I said, listen, you need to worry about you. He's using, okay? You ain't going to stay clean if you keep fucking with him. You just got out of a treatment center. You got a year clean. Do you want to stay clean? You keep leading by example. And some dude come, man, giving her the wrong information. And I swung at him, man, because he kept on with the stupid shit in every meeting. Hey, man, and I missed him, you know. Thank God I did, because I might have had a case, you know. But I grieved over that shit. I went home and I was all tore up, man, like I had used, you know. My blood pressure was up. I was walking in circles like I was plotting what to do. And my partner said, man, listen, you got 11 and a half years clean. Don't let somebody that ain't got shit to lose take you off your square. That clown don't got shit to lose, man. And I thought about it. And do you know I had to go back to that meeting? Because I wanted to. I didn't have to. But see, I believe, man, that, you know, I got to act accordingly. And it didn't set right in my spirit, man. So I went to all the newcomers that was in that meeting, and as well as whoever else was in the meeting, and apologized for my behavior. Okay, now me and that dude hug. Because it's the right thing to do, man. You know what I'm saying? It's the right thing to do. I'll keep coming back, man.